All right, so let's talk about property condition. This is that topic that really plays mind games with a lot of new virtual wholesalers, especially when they're first getting started closing deals over the phone. And I completely get it. I was one of you guys. Okay. This really messed with me and Cassie when we first got started, especially going virtual solely in 2020, because we had a background in construction, right? We were general contractors prior to getting into wholesaling. So one of our strengths was understanding the rehab needs of properties. Then all of a sudden it's going to be, hey, we're just going to try to close this over the phone. We're not going to get a walkthrough. We're not going to get this nitty gritty details on the plumbing and the foundation and the roof and the electrical and all of these things that we have to take into consideration. So this really mess with us. So I completely understand where you're coming from. That being said, I want to try to simplify this so you guys can understand. Now, the title of today's video is, why do I get the property under contract prior to doing a walkthrough? Well, one, it's because we want to have a process inside of our business. That is how we acquire each and every deal. We are not going to allow us knowing or not knowing the property condition to keep us from contracting deals. This helps us be efficient on the acquisition side of things, which quite frankly is one of the areas in where most wholesalers really struggle, right? We generate leads and then we have leads come in, we have conversations. If we're adding anything that can slow us down on the front side, that significantly hinders our ability to profit on the back side. So for me, I always want to focus on being as efficient as possible and kind of kick the can down the road almost, right? So what I mean by that is we're going to have a conversation. And listen, this was not like my idea. I didn't come up with this, all right? I'm not like some people on YouTube where they see somebody else and they take it as their own. No, I'll give credit where credit's due. We're just literally copying what Opendoor does, okay? Someone that buys more houses than almost anyone else. Quite frankly, I think they do buy more houses than any other company out there. Okay, if that's the case, then I'm going to mirror that. I'm going to just copy it. And their process is they ask very vague questions about the condition of the property, and then they contract it based off of that information. They do an inspection, and then they come back and say, hey, based off the inspection results, this is our final offer. Now, from a wholesaling perspective, what we do here at Titanium Investments is the same thing, but a little bit different. We're going to get vague information over the phone from the seller about the condition of the property. We are then going to go out and we are going to get pictures of the property. We're going to send those to our end buyers. The end buyers are going to then go walk the property, tell us what they're willing to offer on it, and if we have to, renegotiate the price to where it works for our end buyers and for us as the wholesaler. So we're literally just taking that Opendoor concept and inserting it into a virtual wholesaling model. That being said, we do want to attempt to be as accurate as possible when it comes to underwriting. So we do need to have a conversation in regards to condition. Now, I'm going to share a couple of comments, that one from YouTube channel and one from Facebook, so you guys kind of understand where today's video came from. All right. Now, the first one is going to be from my YouTube channel. This is from a video that I posted just a couple of days ago. And I asked you guys, hey, leave me comments on video topics that you want me to cover. So this is the first one that I'm covering right here. One day ago, Workshop Tunes said, hey, man, not sure if you're going to see this. I see every single comment, guys, and I appreciate every single one. So drop as many comments as you want. I read each and every one. But a video that I think that would help me and a lot of people is the right questions to ask about the condition of the property. Because in the past, there's been small things I forgot to ask that came back to bite me when going under contract with the property. For example, forgetting to ask what type of plumbing is the property. If it's cast iron, that should be a budget item that was not accounted for. Another example would be electrical. Is the house ungrounded? That could be another big ticket item that would come up. So a video like that to make sure you account for any big ticket items to make sure you aren't screwed later on. Thanks, RJ. So Workshop Tunes, man, really appreciate the comment. And I agree with those specific items, plumbing and electrical. Those are absolutely potential deal killers. Okay. Here's what I want you to do, though. And I really want you to understand inside of the closer's formula, the way that you're talking to sellers, specifically deals that end up with a signed contract. Okay. So you've closed the deal. There is a portion of the closer's formula that is imperative that you follow and you become really good at it. And quite frankly, what I've seen is this is an area which as a community we could grow and get much better. And that's reverse rapport, explaining our process and building rapport through credibility. All right. So what happens here is you're going to go through the closer formula. Hey, Mr. Mrs. Seller, just reaching about 123 Main Street. You still looking to sell that property? Awesome. How much you looking to get for it? 100,000? Sounds great. Tell me a little bit about what you got going on. They tell you their motivation. At some point in time, you're going to say, well, tell me a little bit about the condition of the property. Now, there's a chance they're not going to mention cast iron plumbing. Here's the reason why I do not want you specifically asking about cast iron plumbing. Is the electrical ungrounded or not? Majority of the time, sellers are not even going to know what you're talking about, okay? Unless it's become an issue and maybe they know, they're aware that cast iron plumbing needs to be replaced or the electrical is ungrounded, they might bring it up. But this is typically, depending on if you speak to a man or a woman, this is how it's going to go. You're going to ask a man, tell me about the condition of the property. He's going to tell you about all these systems, right? HVAC, roof, exterior. He's going to tell you about all the man things that he's done to the property, right? Well, I replaced the roof. I replaced this rotted wood. I did all these manly things to the property. And he's not going to tell you about if it's pretty, if the kitchen's been remodeled, if they've done any bathroom remodeling, if any fixtures have been replaced. Now, if you speak to a woman, she's not going to tell you now, this is stereotyping, okay? But I've got thousands of calls on here, and you guys can go back and watch them. This is pretty spot on. Woman will tell you about the pretty things, right? We replaced the flooring. We did replace this light fixture. We painted the walls, this pretty color. All right. So you have a general idea. Now, here's the reason why I don't want you digging deeper. All right. Because when you dig deeper, you're kind of losing leverage during the renegotiation if it has to take place. And what I mean by if it has to take place, one thing like the cast iron plumbing, to one end buyer, the cast iron plumbing might have to be replaced. To another end buyer, that might not be the case. You don't ever want to make assumptions that specific things have to be done in the rehab. Again, when we are underwriting deals, we are trying to determine where does an end buyer buy this property based off the condition that it sits. Now, a lot of that is assumptions that we are making like based off of data that exists, right? So we look on the comps, where are as-is properties being purchased at? Where are flips? Where were they purchased at? Where did they sell at, right? And then we kind of reverse engineer it and we make a spread for ourselves. That's what we do. We don't actually know, though, did those end buyers come in and did they replace the cast iron plumbing? Did they actually replace the entire electrical system? This is why it's important to build that reverse rapport and explain to the seller our process. Mr. and Mrs. Seller, what we're going to do is we're going to come up with a price. If we can come to an agreement today, we're going to come out, we're going to walk that property. We're going to verify the condition is everything that you told me it is today. And if it is, then we'll be good to close on your time frame and at that price. If it's not, if something gets noticed during the inspection walkthrough, then we'll have to revisit price and timeline. Does that make sense? You're literally explaining to them the Opendoor renegotiation period, right? They are expecting a follow-up conversation after we walk the property, aka our end buyers walk the property, and let us know this is the price as an end buyer that I am willing to purchase this property for. Now, if the price is significantly off, so for example, if we're asking $100,000 with our end buyer, sorry, that's a Facebook notification because I actually have Facebook pulled up to show you guys another post. But if we ask our end buyer for $100,000 and the end buyer goes out there and he walks the property and he says, Most I can give you on this property is $80,000. Well, that's a significant gap. So what we're going to ask that end buyer is, tell me what I'm missing. I'm seeing an after repair value of X. I had allotted this much in rehab. I've got holding costs, I've got closing costs, and I've got this much for potential profit. Sound familiar? It's almost the exact same formula that we use when we're educating our sellers when the price is incorrect. We use that exact same formula when we're talking to our end buyers. We educate them on the numbers and explain, we know how much money is making. What number is incorrect here? Is it that you're not making enough profit? Is it that you disagree with the ARV? Is it that you disagree with the amount of repairs? Now, typically, if it's repairs, what we ask then is, how did you come up with that number? If we allotted 40,000 repairs and they say it's 60,000 and that's why they need the price at 80 instead of 100, explain that to me. What did I miss? Well, the property has cast iron plumbing and I need to replace that. That makes complete sense. This buyer needs to replace that cast iron plumbing. That's what we would go back to the seller and say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, we did not realize that the property had cast iron plumbing. And in order for us to achieve the after repair value, we would have to replace that cast iron plumbing. And this is where the price is. Now, sometimes, and I'm not saying every time, but sometimes end buyers are not going to care, right? There will be a landlord that will look at this and say, hey, I'm putting this in my portfolio. I don't care if it has cast iron plumbing. I'll just replace it and repair it as needed over the years. And so, hey, I'm willing to pay a little bit more for this property. That happens all of the time. So we never want to make an assumption to our end buyer's exit strategy and also the amount of repairs. We just want to land inside of the web. That's why we call it that, where end buyers buy. We want to be relatively close and understand our numbers as best as possible. And if there's a disagreement, find out where that came from. Now, the next one I want to show you, this is a Facebook post from a Titanium University member. Just joined in the last class, Joseph Tito. He's brand new to wholesaling. Guy asked great questions. I think he's going to be a killer in this. But he asked this question yesterday. I ran into a house where the seller said it needs foundation work. Now, he saw that our calculator has it at $350 to $400 per pier for foundation repairs. The seller does not know how many piers it will need. That said, generally speaking, how are you guys handling when a seller says it needs foundation work, but you don't know how many piers it needs or do not have any other details, only that they say it needs foundation work? So this is a great example of what I was just talking about with the cast iron plumbing and the electrical repairs, right? If we were to go and consistently ask these questions from the sellers, there's only so much information that this seller can give you, right? It's only if they've really gotten a foundation bid, right? Have they called a foundation repair company and actually got bid and where it says, hey, it needs $11,000 in foundation work? If they haven't, how else are they going to know? Now, they probably know it needs foundation work because the cracks, doors aren't shutting, right? The house just doesn't feel level anymore. Maybe they've even had plumbing problems. There's a lot of things that would indicate that it needs foundation work, but knowing the specific amount of piers or the dollar amount, which is really the most important thing, is going to be really difficult unless they've called a foundation repair company. So how do we navigate that? Again, this goes back to your mindset when it comes to comping and underwriting a deal. Always be conservative with your after repair value and always be aggressive with your repairs. So for example, if I were Joseph here and I were talking to the seller and I asked them, tell me a little bit about the condition of the property. And they said, it's in pretty good shape, but cosmetically it needs updates and it does need foundation work. What I'm going to look at that is I need a full cosmetic update and I'm going to allot a big round number, right? Based off the square footage. Probably somewhere in the range of $40,000, just depending upon the square footage, right? Assuming this is like a normal 12 to 1,500 square foot property. All right, so I've got 40,000, and he says it needs foundation work. If I just allot $50,000 in repairs, that's a pretty solid amount for a 1,500 square foot house that needs cosmetic updates and foundation. We make that assumption that 50,000 is enough, and we'll get the actual answer from our end buyer when they go walk the property. That being said, what is the most important part of what I'm telling you guys? It's not the making the assumption. It's not the asking specific questions of the seller. It's about laying the foundation to have that second conversation if needed. If the assumptions that we make in the amount of repairs needed is incorrect, how do we get that price down? Reverse rapport. Making sure that the sellers are understanding your process, that we are going to come out and we're going to verify everything that we talked about today, everything that you were willing to divulge to me in regards to the condition, which in this scenario was cosmetic updates and foundation work. Even in that case, we could go to them and say, we allotted $10,000 in foundation work based off the conversation we had. Remember, we asked you if you knew the exact amount or how many piers, and you didn't know. Now that we've inspected the property, we found out that it needs 12 piers, and that's going to cost us $12,000, not $10,000. This is why the price needs to be adjusted. Opendoor does this on almost every single property that they get under contract. There's absolutely no reason why we should not be able to do the exact same thing. The key here is that, one, you're setting that expectation with the seller up front, and two, you're being honest and transparent when you go to that seller to get the price renegotiated. So again, guys, I totally get that condition can be one of those things that just completely like mind fucks you. And it's like, I'm stuck. I don't know where to place my offer. Be aggressive. Put a firm number down and a price per square foot. Assume that the seller is almost always telling you a little bit of a lie, right? If they say, hey, it's in really good condition, I'm almost always assuming it needs a cosmetic update. That's pretty much where my mind is. The other thing is, what is the first thing that you do when you go to comp a deal? You look at the property on Google Street View. The reason why this is important is you can see and you can tell a lot about the condition of a property when you just look at the exterior of it, right? It kind of paints a picture for you on what the interior is going to look like. If you look at it and you can see the exterior hasn't been painted, the lawn is not maintained, and it looks somewhat distressed on the outside, chances are it's probably even in worse condition on the outside. However, if you're looking at the property from the exterior and you see well manscaped, that quite possibly is one of the best YouTube bloopers I've ever had right there. I totally dropped the manscaped. Oh man. Well, landscaped, that's the original word that we use, landscaped yard. And you see that it's, well maintained. And the house is freshly painted and it's taken care of. Then you can assume that the inside probably mirrors what the outside looks at. That's the first thing that I do. And then just ask questions. The one thing I don't want you guys doing, because to me, this really kills the flow of the closer's formula, is getting into the machine gun style, bullet point, every single detail of the condition. Tell me about the age of the roof, the HVAC, the foundation, the plumbing, the electrical. Bottom line, majority of sellers are not even going to know how to answer those questions. So get general ideas of what the seller does know about the condition. Ask them open-ended, vague questions. Let them tell you how to navigate the conversation. Divulge information to you that they know how to give you. And then from there, make your assumptions, get the property under contract, have your end buyers do a walkthrough, and renegotiate if necessary. That is our process, and that's what I believe every virtual wholesaler should be doing when they're comping and underwriting, and specifically in regards to condition. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. I appreciate all of the comments that you guys leave, and when y'all ask for specific things, I always want to deliver whatever you guys need to eliminate all the excuses to succeed as a virtual wholesaler. Give me a like on this video, guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow.